you can get started.
Okay. So hello and welcome to the webinar outreach program sponsored by the Talent Acquisition Unit in the Talent Management section in the OSCE. Every month, we create a brand new presentation focused on topics of interest to potential candidates, just like you. Whether you have applied for positions at the OSCE in the past or just found about our organization and program via the social media or our newsletter or other professional associations, here you may find useful tips and best practices shared by us in DHR, in Department of Human Resources, OSCE staff, and special guests. So prior to getting started, please get pen and paper to take notes during this live event. You will be able to ask questions at the end of this presentation using the chat box on the bottom left corner of your screen. So I will now start by introducing my colleague, and then I'll talk about myself again.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ariana Regic, and I'm the Chief of Human Resources at OSCE Mission to Bosnia and Herzegovina. I have had experience working in a variety of tasks in HR, including talent acquisition, personnel and payroll administration, performance management, and number of other important HR services. Dana?
So I'm Dana Mamuli. I am a recruiter in the OSCE Secretariat, and when I first joined the OSCE, I was part of the team that dealt only with secondment. But in the meantime, I've been recruiting for various other types of employment. But of course, my favorite part remains where I started, dealing with seconded positions in field operations, which involves also liaising with delegations and ministries of foreign affairs, identifying best candidates. So now let's say hello to our guest speakers. Katsuna, you're first.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Thank you so much. Greetings from Kiev, capital of Ukraine. I'm very pleased and very honored to be invited to this event to speak with such a wide audience. I welcome everyone, and I'm from Georgia, Deputy Team Leader for OSCE Kiev Monitoring Team. Thank you.
Thank you, Katuna. Martin?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Martin Dexborg, a Swedish national, working at the Secretariat in Vienna as an advisor on gender issues. I've been here for about 2 years by now. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. River?
Hi, my name is River Hustad, and I'm a senior legal advisor at the High Commissioner for National Minorities in The Hague. Although I only just started the position, so I have not been able to move across borders yet from Norway, so I'm still based in Norway.
Thank you. Thank you very much to our guest speakers. We will learn more about them later in the presentation. And thank you again for joining us, taking the time to join us today.
Okay, this is our agenda for today. As you can see, we have a lot of topics to cover. We will start with what is the OSCE. We will also look at the types of employment in the OSCE, recruitment stages, and then I guess most importantly, how is the seconded position different from other types of employment in the OSCE? We will also be looking at how do you apply to the organization. And then we will look at the recap of the secondment process and have some time at the end of the event for your questions and answers. Okay, so what is the OSCE? You can find a lot of information on OSCE online. We recommend that you visit our YouTube channel where you can find a description of our organization in all our official languages, including English, French, German, Italian, Russian, and Spanish. In summary, the OSCE has a comprehensive approach to security that encompasses political, military, economic, environmental, and human aspects. It therefore addresses a wide range of security-related concerns, including arms control, confidence and security building measures, human rights, national minorities, democratization, policing strategies, counter-terrorism, and economic and environmental activities. All of our 57 participating states enjoy equal status, and decisions are taken by consensus on a politically but not legally binding basis.
So who are we? With the 57 participating states, Ariana just mentioned, in North America, Europe, and Asia, the OSCE is the world's largest regional security organization working to ensure peace, democracy, and stability for more than 1 billion people. If you recognize your flag here, it's because your country of nationality is an OSCE participating state. Therefore, you may be eligible to apply for positions at our organization, including international seconded positions. Before we get to more details on seconded position, let's learn more about the organization, what it does via its 3 dimensions. So the OSCE works for stability, peace, and democracy, as I mentioned, for more than 1 billion people through political dialogue and shared values through practical work that contributes to sustainable progress. The OSCE is known to have a comprehensive approach to security, looking at it from a 3-dimension perspective, as you can see here. First is the political military dimension, where the OSCE seeks to create greater openness, transparency, and cooperation, and has developed the world's most advanced regime of arms control and confidence-building measures. The areas of work here would include reforms in the security sector and the safe storage and destruction of small arms, light weapons, and conventional ammunition. The second dimension is the economic and environmental dimension, and these factors can pose threats and challenges to security and stability. Within the economic and environmental dimension, the OSCE supports its participating states in promoting good governance and environmental awareness, tackling corruption, sharing natural resources, and in the sound management of environmental waste. The third dimension is the human dimension. And all participating states agree that the lasting security cannot be achieved without respect for human rights and functioning democratic institutions. The OSCE helps its participating states strengthen democratic institutions, hold genuine and transparent democratic elections, promote gender equality, and ensure respect for human rights, media freedom, and the rights of persons belonging to national minorities, rule of law, as well as promoting tolerance and non-discrimination.
Okay, here are the many branches the OSCE has activities in multiple dimensions. As you can see, you can recognize that many areas of expertise we hire based on the color of the descriptor. For example, you will see that, for example, the first dimension, political military dimension, you can find opportunities here, such as, national minority issues, tolerance, and discrimination. Then the second dimension, economic and environmental, you can see water, waste management, environmental awareness, promoting good governance, tackling corruption and money laundering. The third dimension, practically the combating human trafficking, democratization, election observation, human rights, ensuring respect for human rights, media freedom, rights of national minorities, rule of law, promotion of tolerance, etc. There is another color. You can see the cross-dimensional, basically in gray, where, for example, gender equality or cyber ICT security falls in. Dana?
Sorry, I was on mute. I was actually talking. I'm really sorry. So, I'm going to repeat myself again. We are structured in OSCE secretariats and institutions and field operations. The OSCE secretariat, under the guidance of the Secretary General, provides operational support to the whole organization. We are based in Vienna. Overall, the Secretariat also assists the OSCE chairmanship, which rotates on an annual basis. This year we have Sweden. Last year we had Albania. And they support the OSCE field activities, maintain contact with international and non-governmental organizations, and provide conference, language, admin, financial, personnel, and information technology services. We have 16 field operations throughout the OSCE region. Field operations are only established when an agreement is reached with the host country. In addition to the headquarters, some field operations may also have field offices or regional centers or training centers in the host countries. So, talk about institutions now. The organization has a large number of institutions and structures that help implement its mandate. So, we will focus on the ones that offer seconded positions, since this is our topic today. The first one I'm going to mention is the High Commissioner on National Minorities. They get involved in a situation if in their judgments tensions involving national minorities arise, which could develop into a conflict. Much of their day-to-day work is in identifying and addressing causes of ethnic tensions and conflicts. The High Commissioner addresses the short-term triggers of inter-ethnic tension or conflict and long-term structural concerns. If a participating state is not meeting its political commitments or international norms, the High Commissioner will assist by providing analysis and recommendations. Based on experience, the High Commissioner on National Minorities publishes thematic recommendations and guidelines that give advice on common challenges and best practices. The High Commissioner also provides structural support through small and collaborative projects that aim to achieve sustainability through increasing local ownership. The second institution I'm going to mention is the Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights. They provide support, assistance, and expertise to participating states and civil society to promote democracy, rule of law, human rights, and tolerance and non-discrimination. ODIHR observes elections, reviews legislation, and advises governments on how to develop and sustain democratic institutions. The office conducts training programs for government and law enforcement officials and non-governmental organizations on how to uphold, promote, and monitor human rights. The OSCE representative on freedom of the media is located in Vienna as well, sharing the same building with us in the Secretariat. Their activities can be divided into two groups: observing media developments as part of an early warning function and helping participating states abide by their commitments to freedom of expression and free media. And this includes efforts to ensure the safety of journalists, assist with the development of media pluralism, promote decriminalization of defamation, combat hate speech while preserving freedom of expression, provide expert opinions on media regulation and legislation, promote internet freedom, and assist with the process of switching from an analog to digital broadcasting. The representative of freedom of the media also holds annual regional media conferences, bringing together journalists representative of civil society and government, as well as academics, to discuss current media freedom issues. Now, we have another institution called the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, but we're not going to go into much detail into that, as there's very few opportunities for secondment there. Ariana, back to you. We cannot hear you.
Well, it seems that I did the same thing as you did.
Okay.
We keep forgetting unmuting ourselves. Thank you, Dana. So let us look now at where we are present as an organization at the map. As Dana mentioned earlier, we have 16 field operations that are located in Southeastern Europe, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. The role of field operations consists of helping the host country fulfill its OSCE commitments, assisting actually in various areas of work, such as early warning, conflict prevention, crisis management, or post-conflict rehabilitation. Facilitating reform and political processes too, when it comes to law enforcement, for example, fostering local capabilities. Also, keeping OSCE stakeholders informed about activities and their development, and supporting host countries to manage crisis and to play a critical post-conflict role. When it comes to the jobs that we have and we offer, as we have seen, the OSCE has a comprehensive approach to security in 3 dimensions. So positions in the political military dimension, for example, policy support officer, monitoring officer, then positions in the economic and environmental dimension, economic and environmental officer, environmental advisor, anti-corruption officer, or program officer for energy security. Then program officer, economic cooperation and governance. There are also positions in the human dimension, for an example, human rights officer, democratization officer, or advisor on anti-trafficking issues, media monitoring. There are also policy and administrative roles in addition to that, like legal officer, auditor, investigator, finance officer, policy and planning coordination officer, etc.
So we're gonna look now at the types of employment we offer in the OSCE. I'll just briefly go through the different types of employment, but as the webinar title mentions, in the session we will only focus on secondment. So we have the contracted staff as recruited via direct application. The contracted staff in the OSCE are similar to the United Nations system. So you just create a profile and apply for the vacancy you find suitable to your profile. We have consultants and short-term staff, which are also recruited via direct application on our consultancy roster or the short-term assignments roster. We have the internship, which are also via direct applications, and these are done only for specific vacancy notice. Kindly note the OSCE does not accept unsolicited applications. We have also the junior professional officers, which is part of the secondment system, and the applications will go through your participating state. But we will allocate a webinar to each individual staffing modality and as well as the junior professional officer and his recruitment process at a later stage. And lastly, the one we're talking about today is seconded staff, where applicants are nominated via their respective authorities in their participating states.
So what are the most important things to know about secondments in the OSCE? Application process is done via national authorities. We do not accept direct applications at the organization. We have seconded positions in institutions as well as in the field operations. Important to know is that more than 90% of the international staff in our field operations are seconded. What are the necessary qualifications and professional level for secondments in OSCE? Well, according to our secondment matrix, we have 12 fields of expertise and 4 levels of professional competence, from S1 to S4, plus we also have heads and deputy heads of missions.
So we have field operations in Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe, and Central Asia. I'm just going to briefly mention a few of them. You can look up all the details on our website. So in Southeastern Europe, we have presence in Albania, mission to Bosnia and Herzegovina, where Ariana is, mission to Kosovo, mission to Montenegro, mission to Serbia, and mission to Skopje. In Eastern Europe, we have the mission to Moldova, project coordinator in Ukraine, the special monitoring mission to Ukraine, which is our largest mission so far, and a small mission called OSCE Observer Mission at the Russian checkpoints Gukovo and Donetsk. And we also have field operations in Central Asia, where we have the personal representative of the chairperson in office on the conflict dealt with by the OSCE Minsk conference. We have the center in Ashgabat, program office in Astana, program office in Bishkek, program office in Dushanbe. So please feel free, if you're interested in a specific geographical area, just feel free to look at the website. Each field operation has its own little page with details about it. So, what are the levels of seconded positions we have available? So I'll start off with the heads of missions and deputy heads of missions, which are the highest level. They are selected by a secondment system through a specific recruitment process. And in this case, the OSCE chairmanship is the appointing authority. Then we have the other seconded posts that are, I'll start off with the highest. Senior management, which is, we call it in the OSCE language S4, which requires 10 years of experience, including 6 years at the managerial level. We have the middle management positions, the S3, which requires 6 years of relevant experience, including 3 years at the managerial level. We have the senior professional S2, which requires 6 years of relevant experience, and the professional post S1, which require 2 years of relevant experience. I will have to mention here separately that the field of expertise called civilian police has different requirements in terms of the years, and it's higher. So for a professional would be 6 years, senior professional would be 10 years of relevant experience, as well as for middle management. And we will talk about it in more details later. So the fields of expertise that we're looking at, they're here on the screen now. I'm not going to go into much detail. They all belong into a matrix, and you will see that every seconded position advertised has a field of expertise, and the requirements are drawn automatically. So we have administration and support, civilian police already mentioned, democratization, economic and environmental affairs, education, elections, general staff monitoring functions, human rights, media affairs, military, political, rule of law. So I'll pass on to Ariana on the steps of the recruitment process for seconded positions.
Thank you, Dana. When applying to a post in the OSCE, what is the expected timeline? What is the total process? Well, it can be 130 days or 4.5 months. Starting from the vacancy notice, a hiring manager informs the recruitment unit of the staffing needs due to succession planning, to maternity leave or sick leave coverage, resignation, whatever the reason might be. And then we initiate the vacancy. We initiate the vacancy notice. The period is that the vacancy is usually out for 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the level of the position. And the basis for the vacancy is a job description, or when it comes to the seconded positions, it is a terms of reference. The long listing process is, it comes immediately after the initial screening. It is for 10 days, and then we also have the shortlist later on. The recruitment professionals screen applications and long list those with the essential qualifications and experience. All applications are reviewed against the vacancy notice, so against the terms of reference that we have. We also use the Sondru, the tool. It is a type of video interview in which questions are automated. They are pre-recorded and presented within a computer application rather than being asked for an actual person. The candidates then film themselves answering the questions using a webcam and microphone, and these responses are then sent to the hiring manager and the Department of Human Resources Recruitment Unit for review. When it comes to the shortlisting, the head of the department is responsible to basically do the further screening and then prepare a short list of candidates that will be invited for a personal interview, or most recently for an online interview. A competency-based interview, the OSCE competency model defines the behaviors that are essential to effective performance in any given job. The values and core competencies that are for all OSCE officials, regardless of their function or their title. Managers must, in addition to the values and core competencies, demonstrate a number of competencies that are deemed essential in a management role. This guide, the OSCE Competency Model Guide, provides interview questions that can be applied during the interview process for both the core values and competencies, as well as for post-specific competencies. There are core elements which help in the recruitment and selection, performance management and evaluation, and addressing learning and development opportunities too. That sets also the foundation for human resources management and helps to improve the organizational performance. Provides a common language for daily work of the organization. It promotes an organizational culture, shared understanding of what effective performance means, establishes clear and shared expectations required for each competency. An interview board in OSCE consists of 3 to 4 members, and they participate in a competency-based interview, and candidates additionally take a skills test. Both interview and test results are analyzed to come to a decision, and a candidate is selected and the appointment is approved by the senior management. So, excuse me. Tools that we used in OSCE for recruiting staff are actually vacancy notices, application forms, self-assessment questions, screening metrics, Sondru that I mentioned earlier, job-related written tests, competency-based interviews, reference and credentials checks too. How is the secondment different? Well, let me focus on the three areas here. The application process is nationality-based. Potential candidates undergo an additional screening by our participating states, who then decide whether or not to nominate you for consideration. Each participating state has its own process for secondment, including the use of recruiting agencies, while others do that via the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and others via delegations. The remuneration may also be different, and the contracts, in terms of the type of the contract, comparing to other modalities of employment in OSCE, seconded staff or mission members actually sign a contract with their seconding authorities, while with the OSCE, they just sign the terms of assignment with the organization. How to apply to a seconded position? Well, we do not accept direct applications, as we mentioned before. Your application will arrive in the national institutions, and then they will decide whether or not to second. Go to the OSCE employment website, choose the position you want to apply for, and then select your participating state. Create a profile, or if you already have one, highlight the relevant qualifications or add information that you think is relevant for the job that you are applying for. Once you choose to submit your candidature, your application form is being forwarded to your respective nomination authorities. That may be Ministry of Foreign Affairs, delegations, or a recruiting agency. If your participating state agrees to nominate you, your application is then being forwarded to our recruitment unit, where the long list is being drafted. Since each participating state has its own way of processing secondment, should you have participating state-specific questions, kindly contact delegations, contact your OSCE delegation.
So here's our jobs page and the link. Check it out regularly, as we always have secondment opportunities in the OSCE. About 80% of the positions in the international positions in the field operations are secondment based. If you wish to apply, please keep in mind that the application also needs processing in the participating state as well. So you may want to avoid applying in the last day before the deadline. They may need 1 or 2 working days to process it. We advertise all our vacancies on the OSCE website, and you do need to apply using the OSCE employment page. Now, if you have any questions regarding remuneration or anything, any benefits for seconded, please address those questions to your delegations. Ariana mentioned where you can find them. I'll just repeat one more time. It's on the osce.org/contact/delegation. Now, on the secondment remuneration, I'll pass on to Ariana.
Thank you, Dana. I mentioned already we are looking at 3 aspects that are very specific for secondment. So we just discussed one. The second one is the remuneration that I briefly mentioned. The remuneration differs in the form that for all seconded positions, your remuneration is borne by your seconding authorities, who decides on your financial entitlements. In the field operations, the OSCE pays a board and lodging allowance for all its international staff. It is worth mentioning that some participating states pay a salary according to the level and experience of their secondees. Others do not make such a distinction and pay a unique amount, while there are others that have seconded staff that rely solely on the board and lodging allowance. In the Secretariat and the institutions, there is no such board and lodging allowance. For more information on this, please contact your nominating authorities or delegation in Vienna.
So here's the important numbers you need to know about the secondment in the OSCE. They're in different fonts and colors because just focus on them. They're very important. First number is 12 because secondments are generally for an initial period of 12 months, the possibility of extension, pending, of course, the agreement with your participating state. The second number is 7 because it's the 7 years you can stay in the same field operation. And last number is 10 because 10 years is the maximum amount of tenure, meaning how long you can stay working in the OSCE. So as you can see, one can start at the OSCE as a secondee with an initial contract of 12 months and have extensions granted up to 7 years in the same field operation. If you change jobs and go to another field operation, then you may be allowed to remain for a total of 10 years. So I think enough information. I'll pass it to Ariana.
I think we have provided plenty of information. Now, the fun part. Now let's get to know our 3 speakers today. So, Katuna from Georgia. Please. Can we hear you?
Yes, thank you so much once again. Thank you so much once again, and once again, greetings from Kiev. I would have loved to have a video and to see you all, but these are the limitations of working remotely these days. So thank you once again for this opportunity. I would like to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Georgia, as I already mentioned. I have more than 18 years of working experience in international and national humanitarian and development agencies from my home country, Georgia, and South Caucasus. Currently, I work as deputy team leader for OSCE SMM Kiev monitoring team. I joined SMM, OSCE SMM, and started to work in Ukraine in 2015 as monitoring officer, and worked in eastern Ukraine where the conflict takes place on both sides of the contact line in government-controlled and non-government controlled areas of Lugansk and Donetsk regions. I have performed almost all functions of monitoring officer, being a reporting officer, human dimension officer, elected staff representative, seat driver, patrol leader, and so on. In 2016, I was promoted to the position of the deputy team leader and was appointed as acting team leader in SMM's Ivano-Frankivsk team. As you know, colleagues, our CSMM has 10 monitoring teams in all over Ukraine. We operate not only in eastern Ukraine, where as I said, military conflict takes place, but we have offices, also 8 offices outside Donbas, in major Ukrainian cities. I started my work in non-Donbas teams, how we call this in OSCE in Western teams, so-called non-Donbas or Western teams in Ivano-Frankivsk, which is in Western Ukraine. And after that, in 2017, I was transferred to Kharkiv, which is in the southeast part of Ukraine. Each regional office, for your information, covers several regions. For instance, in Ivano-Frankivsk, we covered the Ivano-Frankivsk, Ternopil, and Zakarpattia regions. Maybe you have heard these are the regions. Zakarpattia is the region where ethnic Hungarians live. Kharkiv covered also 3 regions, Kharkiv, Poltava, and Sumy regions. In September 2018, I was temporarily supporting and working as acting deputy head of operations in the mission, assisting the head office in supervising operations of 17 offices and sub-offices of OSCE SMM in Ukraine. with about 1,300 staff members. Since November 2018, I'm working as have been working as a deputy team leader for OSCE SMM Kiev monitoring team. For extended time in both Kharkiv and in Kiev, I have worked as acting team leader for the team. These teams outside Donbas are smaller. In Donbas, in eastern Ukraine, we have currently about 450 international mission members observing the conflict, but non-Donbas so-called Western teams have about 30 staff members. Currently, I have 26 staff members, both international and national, under my supervision. In general, I have more than 15 years of staff supervision, program management experience. Before OSCE SMM, I worked for Norwegian state and oil gas company in Georgia. This is number 2 supplier of gas to Europe. I was in charge of Statoil Georgia's daily operations on 2 occasions and was advising Statoil on political, economic, and other developments in Georgia and managing Statoil's corporate social responsibility portfolio, funding UNHCR organizations like UNHCR, NRC, DRC, and other international organizations. I also worked for Heinrich Böll Foundation in South Caucasus. I was responsible for the management and implementation of foundation's programs and staff in 3 South Caucasus countries, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. And also worked for a long time for Norwegian Refugee Council, South Caucasus regional office. This is very briefly about my background, working professional background. When the conflict started in Ukraine, of course, because I'm from Georgia, we have been in Georgia very closely following the conflict in Ukraine. And as soon as it started, I knew that I wanted to work in Ukraine. And indeed, I applied and I applied in 2014 and was already invited for the interview at the end of the 2014. But because of my and was selected in 2014. But because of my employment and the contractual obligations, I postponed the deployment until March 2015. So I did not know anyone particular working in OSCE SMM or OSCE, but I knew that I wanted to work in Ukraine as part of the international monitoring and observation mission in the conflict.
Thank you, Katuna. Thank you very much. We will come back later with some questions. Now, let us go to Martin Hexborg. Martin, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry, my name is Martin Dexborg, and also thank you to Katuna. It's nice to hear your voice again. We met a few years back in Ukraine. Yes, so as I mentioned, I work at the Secretariat in Vienna. My background, I got a master's in political science, and I spent about 15 years working for various international organizations and NGOs. Just prior to OSCE, I was in Georgia working for the European Union Monitoring Mission, and before that I spent lots of time in Middle East, Africa, working for various United Nations missions, EU missions in Indonesia, Afghanistan. I worked for the Swedish Armed Forces, worked for the Refugee Council, the Non-Violent Peace Force in South Sudan, and so on. So I had a lot of the same field experience. However, I never worked in a headquarter position before, and I never worked for OSCE. I heard about OSCE mainly from the election observation missions, and also I knew about the monitoring mission in Ukraine, but I didn't know much about the organization per se. So one day I was looking into one of the Swedish governmental web page, where every country is different, as we heard, when it comes to comment processes. But in Sweden, all the positions are announced on one particular governmental web page. And there was a position as a gender advisor for OSCE. So I started interesting, and I looked on the website, and I got even more interested, and I decided to apply. I didn't know anyone in OSCE, as I said, and I had very limited exposure to the organization. But after doing some research, I realized would probably be a very good fit for me. And indeed it has been. I've been here now for 2 years, and I'm hoping to stay longer. I will stop there, and I will speak more later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Now our third speaker, River, can you please tell us something about yourself?
Hi. I come from a little bit different background, not so much work with or work for NGOs. I've worked a bit with NGOs, but not for NGOs. So I have an educational background. I actually started a bachelor's degree in accounting because I thought, well, there's no jobs in social sciences. And so I wanted to secure a job. And after I took an international relations course at the UN in The Hague, I said, no, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. And so after a bachelor's degree in political science, did a master's degree in international relations in London. And then I was living in the U.S. then, and I went back to the U.S. and did a law degree. And then I practiced law in the U.S., mostly civil rights law. And so I was representing juvenile defendants who were charged with criminal cases. I was representing indigent people, people who didn't have indigent people who did not have any money to hire their own lawyer, and then also privately bring civil rights cases. I worked with many NGOs like the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, on cases with minorities who had been killed by police or treated poorly by police or other ways that the government was failing the civil rights of people. After a while, I moved to Norway, where I did an LLM in human rights law. And then I stayed on at that same institution and did a PhD, and then started working for them afterwards, the Norwegian Center for Human Rights, where I've been for about the last 15 years, simultaneously doing cases in the U.S. and elsewhere in the world on a consultant basis and some research and for lawyers, because you just can't, once you start doing the implementation of human rights in that way, you get hung up on it. You want to continue these cases. But mostly the past 15 years in a university, I've been teaching, doing research, some program work. I've had the opportunity to teach in a number of different places in Indonesia, in China, Vietnam, in Mexico, with shorter guest teaching positions. And the way that I came to the OSCE was more recently, I've especially during the COVID lockdown, like many other people, you start thinking about what am I doing, where am I going with my career, with my life, and sort of wanted a more hands-on implementation of human rights rather than an academic theoretical addressing of human rights. And so I looked in the advertisements, the job advertisements, in just on a whim one day, and to see what was there. And the Norwegian authorities, they advertise in the normal classified ads for employment. And I saw this position at the OSCE, and I thought, boy, that looks really interesting. I had a little bit of knowledge from the OSCE. I taught about it once in a class, and I also was an election observer for the OSCE previously. And so I thought this is really great, and so I applied. I didn't know anybody in the organization or in the system, so I just applied, and so here I am.
That's great. Thank you, River, very much. Thanks to all three of you for introducing yourselves. Now we're going to transition to talking to all three of you about your experience as a seconded mission or staff members at the organization. So my first question, maybe we can start, River, from you, is what is it like being a seconded at the OSCE? What can you share with our prospective candidates?
Well, I only just started at this position 6 weeks ago, so I can't give too much based on long experience on what it's like being a secondee. But I can tell you that I've gotten into the position enough so that I see what I'm working with and what I'm doing, and it has very much lived up to what I hoped it would be. This may sound very idealistic, but when I applied for the position, I referred in my application to a challenge by Robert Kennedy, who said that each individual person can do something against the enormous array of the world's ills, against misery and ignorance, injustice and violence. And in my application, I said, "Give me a place to stand," I quoted, "and I will move the world." And so in the OSCE and in the High Commissioner's office, it is an accurate description that one has a place to stand in which to change the world. And that's what I was looking for. I wanted something where I felt I was making a difference. So what I do in that position is I assist the High Commissioner in preventing minority-based conflict. His mandate is one of early warning and quiet diplomacy, so I work behind the scenes, monitoring legal developments or lack of legal developments in my area of responsibility in the Western Balkans. And that means that I follow the news each day for new issues. I analyze the status of the rule of law in a particular area, and I brief the High Commissioner so that he can quietly and diplomatically contact these various interlocutors to prevent escalation of tensions that may lead to conflict. So this is a very concrete use of international law and human rights as a sort of a fundamental benchmarks for sustainable peace. And it's also very hands-on in the field action truly for a better world. So I work with a small but dedicated staff of about 30 people at the High Commissioner's office. And there's legal officers, political officers, project advisors, thematic advisors, and administrative support. And in addition, I get to have frequent contact with the relevant interlocutors. And once the pandemic is over, we'll travel extensively in the Western Balkans, my area of responsibility. So I can't give you...
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, River. Martin, what do you think from a different institution? What is it like being a secondee there?
Well, yeah, let me just say, OSCE, as we heard from the presentation, we have a very broad concept of security. And that was what were particularly interested and appealing to me. And in my specific job, being a gender advisor in what we call the political military dimension, it is extremely, let's say, wide. In my job, or let me say like this, being a security institution, as OSCE is, security institutions has traditionally been a very male-dominated field. I would say the last 20 years, OSCE, like most other security organizations, has opened up and trying to redefine the concept of security and also assuring that security needs of both women and men are taken into consideration, both in our internal work but also in our external work. So my job as an advisor, I work with a wide range of colleagues. Could be everything from Katuna and her colleagues in the Special Military Mission in Ukraine to colleagues working on policing projects, border security, counterterrorism, and so on. Right now, I'm preparing a roundtable discussion we will have next week, where we will invite people from civil society, security professionals, and government officials and to discuss how to improve national action plans. We're aiming to implement the resolution for the 25 of Women, Peace and Security. But just one example of my day-to-day work. It's organizing conferences, speaking at conferences, reading project proposals, trying to advise colleagues how can you in a gender perspective on everything from disposing rocket fuel in Kyrgyzstan to training of border professionals in Tajikistan to organizing roundtables on violence against women in Serbia. So it's a very, let's say, wide range of activities but I'm doing.
Very diversified. Thank you very much, Martin. Katuna, would you like to add to what is your impression or your view of the impact that you are making as part of OSCE?
Thank you so much for this question. If you don't mind, I will, before I talk about my personal work, the work of our office, a little bit speaking about the mission. Of course, as I said, I work in Kiev city, in the capital of Ukraine. We have two offices. This is a head office. And there is also Kiev regional office, and I work in Kiev regional office. It's one of the regional offices like I worked before in Ivano-Frankivsk, in Kharkiv, or we have in Odessa, Kherson, and other cities. So, but because of our unique location in Kiev, we follow a lot of national issues and national politics. But before speaking about my work and my impact, I just want to a little bit highlight that the reason why the mission OSCE is in Ukraine is, of course, the conflict in Eastern Ukraine. And in 2020, the mission, the gravity and the focus, of course, has been in Eastern Ukraine, and the conflict has seen a major breakthroughs and the progress, which is the ceasefire, which was agreed between the sides to the conflict on 22nd of July, and is still holding. It's generally holding. It's very fragile. We have seen deterioration of the security situation, spikes and shootings, and of course civilian and military casualties, but it is still holding. So in 2020, the SMM recorded about 134,000 ceasefire violations in comparison to about 300,000 ceasefire violations in 2019. This is about 55% reduction, which is attributable to this ceasefire agreement. Of course, the conflict takes its toll and affects negatively the civilian population. The civilian population continues to suffer from ceasefire violations, from mines and UXOs. And unfortunately, in 2020, we continue to register the civilian casualties. But in comparison to 2019, the number of civilian casualties has decreased in Eastern Ukraine. So and the mission continues to, of course, to perform a very important function, which is monitoring windows of silence in Eastern Ukraine, which allows essential repairs to civilian infrastructure, providing access to water and power to millions of people on both sides of the contact line. And in 2020, we facilitated around 1,500 windows of silence, affecting in total 6 million people. So these are some of the highlights from the mission's overall activities and operations. And in Kiev, we are monitoring the security situation there. We are following a lot of political issues, a lot of national politics, and of course the developments when it comes to the developments in the parliament, in the government, in civil society, when it comes to the conflict in Eastern Ukraine and also in Crimea. As I said, I'm currently supervising 26 staff members, international and national staff members, and we are following important political, human rights, and security developments in our area of operations in Ukraine, in Ukrainian politics. how my day looks like. For instance, I meet since 2000. I have calculated actually when preparing for this little bit, assessing my impact and my work in Kiev monitoring team. I joined Kiev monitoring team in 2018, November 2nd, and only me had 399, actually 400 today, because I also had today 400 meetings with members of the parliament, civil society organizations, representatives of state agencies, members of the city, regional, village councils, representatives of national and ethnic minorities, church representatives, different representatives of different confessions, internally displaced persons. So we meet a lot of, we establish contact with stakeholders at various levels, government, national, regional, and follow the major developments in Ukraine. This is the job I'm doing. And of course, but again, just reiterating that the focus of the operations is, of course, in Eastern Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katuna. Now, back to you, Dana.
Thank you, Ariana. So, all three of you mentioned already particular aspects about working for the OSCE, but I just want to know briefly, not just me, but also our audience, what's so special about working for the OSCE? Whoever wants to start.
Yeah, I'm happy to take the floor if nobody else.
Please
Thank
go.
you.
I will be.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say one of the things that really struck me since we're starting for OSCE is the fact that most of our field operations has been in place for many years. And it's quite interesting sitting in Vienna when I talk to our colleagues in the field. The excellent relationship they have formed with our participating states where the field operations are present. And I think, I would argue that this is a really special feature of OSCE, that we have this very close collaboration with our participating states, which makes it very easy to implement our project. We have great access, essentially, to government officials, but also to civil society and NGOs in the areas where we have field operations. And I think that is, at least for me, what I really see as the main, let's say, feature that makes OSCE a very special security organization. Thank you.
I could add to that if what Martin was saying, it's that access and that relationship that the organization has with the individual states is very good. It's not an adversarial relationship. It's very much a helping hand relationship. It's a give and take relationship. And from the office where I work, the High Commissioner for National Minorities, it's we address these situations of potential conflicts with national minority issues at the core. We address these issues from a perspective of whatever works. So we have good access, we have good relationships. We're not trying to take a state to court to prove that they're doing something wrong and to shame them. Those things have their place in the world, but in this organization, it's really a cooperative approach and with good faith all around. But a second thing that I think is really special about working for the OSCE, and I've only been here for about 6 weeks, like I said, but is the people that we get to work with. It's a very geographically diverse group of people, but they all have such an amazing amount of expertise and experience, and having that environment around you and such wonderful colleagues is a great asset to work with.
Thank you so much. And if I can also add, unlike the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine is, of course, a special monitoring mission. Unlike other OSCE missions and offices in 57 participating states, we have a special mandate. And you know that mandate is the reason why we are here is the conflict in Ukraine. And our mandate is determined by a consensus decision of 57 OSCE participating states in 2014. And the reason why we are here is our special mandate. We are mandated to monitor and report on the security situation and monitor and support the respect for human rights in a transparent and impartial manner and facilitate dialogue on the ground in Ukraine. So I feel that I have already been in the mission for 6 years, and I worked in eastern Ukraine. I have worked in different parts of Ukraine in OSCE. This is number 8 office for me currently. Where I work in Kiev, and it's a very special mission. It's a very special mission for Ukraine and for OSCE and international community. And I feel that I am part of this international efforts to monitor the conflict in Ukraine and to support Ukraine in this difficult time. So it's a very special mission, a very special responsibility, and of course being a part of this mission is only a privilege and honor. And I'm really proud member of OSCE. And just to mention that the impact of OSCE is huge in Ukraine. We are constantly observed, quoted, covered in media. And of course, the conflict in Ukraine is on the political agenda every day in parliament, in streets, in the lives of the people. So we are every day we are reminded that the conflict is here in Ukraine. It is unresolved, and the government is trying to somehow solve the conflict. But unfortunately, it still prevails and exists. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Ariana, back to you.
All right. I mean, can you share with us also your view? How do you think this assignment in OSCE added to your career journey? I think this would be very interesting for our prospective candidates to hear, especially when it comes to the fact that OSCE is a non-career organization, and we have seen that there are limitations to service. So anyone who wishes to start.
I may start to answer this question. As I said, I have been working in Ukraine already for OSCE since March 2015. Quite substantial time, of course. And as you rightly mentioned, indeed, OSCE is not a career organization, but still there is a possibility to take different roles in OSCE. I started as monitoring officer, and then perform the functions of the deputy team leader, acting team leader, acting deputy head of operations. So during these 7 years, when a mission member can work in one duty station, there is still possibility to perform different functions within the organization, and to work in different places and offices and locations on government and non-government part of Ukraine. So it's very interesting, very dynamic, and full of events and developments. The job, everyone, of course, as usual, starts as monitoring officer. Monitoring officers, they start working in Eastern Ukraine. They are deployed in Donetsk and Lugansk regions. But after a year, there is a possibility to apply for another position, internal position inside the OSCE and do different things. As I said, when I was even monitoring officer, I was reporting officer, human dimension officer. I was elected staff representative. So despite the limitations, but there are still internal possibilities for mission members, and I really encourage everyone to apply for the positions in OSCE. The job is very interesting and very dynamic. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Martin, anything to add?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. Well, first of all, I mean, working with gender equality, you learn something new every single day. both professionally but also personally in terms of self-development. So, I mean, that is certainly something I will, bring with me in my future career journey post-OSCE. But I wanted to pick up on 2 points that River and Katuna made. On River's point on the wide range of expertise in OSCE, I really want to emphasize that. I mean, I have learned so much outside my own field in my years here. I mean, everything from colleagues like River in the High Commission for National Minorities to our colleagues in ODIHR on human rights law, which is things I didn't know before, which is will be so valuable for me post-OSCE. And on the point Katuna made on the conflict in and around Ukraine, I also, being in Vienna, I'm also participating in the Permanent Council, which is a meeting that happens every Thursday, where all the ambassadors from our 57 member states are meeting and discussing current security issues. So on that, I have learned also a lot about how, let's say, international diplomacy works and having seen it up front, which is also something I will definitely bring with me in my future career journey. So, yeah, thank you.
I could just add a short little bit that, something that Martin said, very true, that you get to see parts of the international system that maybe you don't normally get to see, or that aren't really available from an outsider to see. In the High Commissioner's office, with his role of more quiet diplomacy, behind the scenes diplomacy, I've been a professor in human rights, and you teach about human rights from a theoretical perspective. I've been a lawyer on human rights cases. You see how these cases work. Everybody sees how NGOs work, and they're very public, and can be naming and shaming, and or cooperation with to build capacity. But you don't really get to see that diplomacy behind the scenes and how it works. And you can read about it in a book, maybe with someone who's been there, but to really see how it works in practice is an amazing thing. Already I've seen so many interactions that will benefit my career after I leave the OSCE, whether I'm doing specific legal cases as an advocate or if I return to academia. Having that knowledge and that bigger rounded perspective of how the world works and these mechanisms is invaluable.
Absolutely. Thank you, River. Thank you all.
So I have one more question, last one. Can you think about your own application process? Do you have any tips or anything that you think you can share with the applicants on how to best help themselves when applying for the OSCE, besides what we mentioned already, and I'll mention later on webinars and other resources we offer?
If I may start answering the question. I think the important is also to understand the process, and that the application process will take some time. So this is very important. It is important because we are now experiencing, of course, everyone, pandemic and challenges caused by the pandemic. There will be the recruitment process will take some time. So it's better to be patient about it, and this is the first thing about the process. Actually, I want to underline. And also, even though the applications of vacancy announcements from monitoring officers, they are standard. So, but also you need to know that the standard vacancy announcement does not demonstrate or does not clarify very well what kind of resources we need. And OSCE needs people not only with military background, with police background, with the security and military knowledge of security and military affairs, but people who are experts in human dimension issues, on human rights, people who are working on political issues with outstanding writing and analytical skills. So I think this is very important. The mission needs more women, female monitoring officers, female mission members. So this is important to know and understand that even though the application is the vacancy announcement is very standard, we still need people with human dimension, human rights, political affairs, gender, legal issues, knowledge of international human rights and humanitarian law. So this is I wanted to say actually. Thank you.
Should I go next?
Yeah. Okay, thanks, River.
Well, I would say, first of all, speaking from experience, if it requires moving across international boundaries, it's probably not the most convenient time to apply right now in the middle of a pandemic. It was my experience. I mean, it was after getting the position, and I've been in limbo really trying to move to the Netherlands. But besides that, the process with the Norwegian secondment authorities, the process was pretty much straightforward. It was a very lengthy process and very thorough. But it may be different in other countries. But in Norway, there were 2 interviews and tests, both a substantive test and a psychological test to see if you were psychologically in the position before you could receive the national nomination to even apply to the OSCE. And then when I applied to the OSCE, then there was a written test, and that was like 4 or 5 hour written test, and then an interview with the office. So, I mean, I would recommend, if that's the type of process that you have in the position that you're applying for, I mean, you need to learn everything you can about the institution that you're applying to. And in my case, with a half-day written exam, it's equivalent to a university exam. So you really need to consider whether you have the knowledge about the institution and the tools that it uses equivalent to an entire university course. And if you don't have that thorough knowledge, then you really need to achieve it before you apply. And the different positions will have different levels of knowledge that you need, but from my experience, that's what the situation was. So hope that helps someone.
Yeah, I can just add to what has already been said. Like Katuna mentioned, to understand the recruitment process, I think that's really important. When I applied, I did look at the website, and there was a lot of relevant information there. And I know now it's even more. There's a range of webinars that you can watch on anything from how to manage the competency-based interview to the written test. And for someone like me who didn't have that much experience on those interviews before, that would have been very, very valuable. So I would really encourage anyone who consider to apply to do your homework by accessing the website and use the tools that are there, because they are very good. And also the other point Katuna made on, human rights people with women, people with diverse ethnic backgrounds, absolutely, I would encourage specifically you to apply. I think OSCE is perhaps a little bit less known as other security organizations. So, and maybe if you don't have a security background, it doesn't feel natural to apply to OSCE, but we do need to diversify, and there is certainly a lot of interesting positions here which requires background in human rights or from civil society. So I would definitely recommend to consider applying for OSCE if you have that background. So, thank you.
And dear colleagues, I'm so happy that some of you already contacted me through different social networks, and thank you so much, and gave me feedback on my presentation. Just wanted to say that for the recruitment purposes, it's very important to prepare the answer to the question on the OSCE mission, to be able to explain to the recruitment board what is the mission of OSCE, how do you see the mission, its operations from your perspective. So this is almost a must question on many interview panels I have been, and just giving a tip that would be good to to prepare yourself about this and when preparing for the test or for the interview. Make a good research of OSCE SMM activities and the mandate of the organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katuna. Thank you. Thanks to all of you, our dear guest speakers. I believe that our prospective candidates have learned a lot from your presentations. Because we are already a bit behind our time and we need to wrap this up. Let us just look at the secondment process recap very quickly. So you need to go to OSCE website. You need to create your profile, or if you already have a profile, you need to obviously adjust it, adapt it to the position that you wish to apply for, and apply. Screening is done by the nominating authority, and then all the nominating authorities are actually providing OSCE with nominations from their participating states. Following receipt of the nominations, the recruitment unit of OSCE is screening further assessment, and then the process is conducted either by field operations of OSCE, any of the particular missions or institutions, or in the secretariat. Participating states are informed of the recruitment process outcome at the end of the process, and then it is their responsibility to get in touch with their nominees and inform them about the results. So at the end of the process, the applicants are informed of the outcome from their participating states. Dana?
Yes, so I'm here. Just a few tips. Go to jobs.osce.org. You will see there some live recordings of the webinar outreach program. Please subscribe to the talent acquisition newsletter. We post there tips and tricks and all the vacancies we're issuing. Check the infographics on recruitment in 10 steps and our new page on women at the OSCE. You will see, Ariana, on the next slide. It's what I was mentioning on the infographics, exactly the recruitment in 20 steps, the key resources. So you will be able to find majority of the information you need on our website or in the webinars. I thank you very much for your attention today and for joining us. I thank to our guests. Thank you for taking the time today. I know you're all very busy. And yeah, Ariana.
Yes, Dana, thank you very much. I don't think we have time for questions anymore, except to just go through a couple of questions that are frequently asked. What happens if I miss the deadline, or who processes my application after I'm nominating? Who is the appointing authority? How soon can I apply for another job, etc., etc. We have touched upon a number of these during the presentation, and I'm sure, by looking at the recording as well, our prospective candidates will be able to find answers to all of them. Dana, do you want to add anything?
No, please feel free to reach out to us as much as time allows. We will answer. Follow us on LinkedIn for more updates. If you have specific questions, mainly on secondments, you need to address them to your participating state, but you can also reach out to us via LinkedIn. Just a quick recap. So we learned about the OSCE today, the different types of employment. We learned about the recruitment stages in the OSCE and how the seconded positions are different from the others. How do you apply for seconded positions? So thank you again for your attention. Nothing more to add. We took a bit longer than we planned.
Yes. Great thanks to our speakers, to our panelists, and to all of you who have been listening to us for the past hour and a half. Join us next month for another webinar. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.